if we could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start with agenda approval. I don't know of any changes to the agenda. Does anybody else have any? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion by Easter,
Second.
second by Bo. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to some future events, please check the district calendar and resource guide or the district website for a complete list of monthly events. Tuesday, May 25th, we have a school board work session at 6 p.m. Monday, May 31st, no school for students and staff, and the DSC is closed. Tuesday, June 8th, school board regular meeting at 7 o'clock with communication to the board and administration at 6:45. And Thursday, June 10th is last day of school, which is crazy, it's coming so fast. Moving on to the consent agenda, can I get a motion, please? Motion by Forsberg, second by Easter, to approve the following items of the consent agenda. Minutes of the April 13 school board regular meeting, bills paid for March 2021 in amounts totaling $3,592,400, and the personnel items. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on to discussion reports and information items. Effective operations improve our effective management of human, financial, and physical resources. Monthly financial report for March 2021. Ms. Amy Schultz.
All right, good evening. Tonight, see these screens. We're going to cover our monthly cash financial statements. There we go. All right, so we are covering the month of March. With this, the first report is our treasurer's report, our cash basis, beginning, ending balance, and receipts and disbursements. On the revenue side, our general fund cash receipts are just about 100% state aids. It was $7.5 million. Outside of that, we have our food service and community education, which are obviously student-driven operating accounts, the revenue that comes in for those. And with that, our internal service funds, again, that is our self-insurance fund. So the revenue and expenses that you see coming in for that reflect the district's contribution of premiums from other funds into that fund, and then paying those fees and claims out of that fund as well. So we ended March with just over 50 million. The statement of revenues, one thing to keep in mind is because this is March and the school board approved.
Can you make that a little bigger? Is it too late?
Oh, you're seeing that? That's not what it looks like on my screen. Sorry, I thought you were seeing what I am seeing. And it's backwards. So you know what? I might just go with this version for now. Probably still not big enough though.
It's probably just me, don't worry about it.
No, it's probably not.
That's better, that's better.
All right, so in April, the school board approved budget revisions. So those are not reflected yet because we are reporting in the month of March. So next month, when we do April, you will see the revisions reflected at that time. So that is one thing that you will see on this where it does look like we are ahead of our budget on revenues. There's two reasons for that. One is the state is still paying us as though our enrollment is up a bit. And we didn't lose as many students as many surrounding districts, so that is a good thing, but it did go down enrollment-wise in our budget. A lot of the revenue, though, coming in and being ahead are those CARES federal funds grants that we have received money for, that we did a budget revision for, but currently we've already received over $2 million, but we haven't adjusted that budget yet until next month. Food service and community education, again, are a little bit behind where they have typically been. With kids not being in school or on-site programming not available for all of our programs, that is, again, still not a surprise this year. then for the expense side, same thing with the budget conversation, and we are really right on expenses. But again, that does reflect some big purchases for curriculum materials with the reading adoption, which was paid for, most of that out of operating capital carryover that we set aside last year, as well as some CARES funding, as well as within those supplies and materials, a lot of technology purchases we made this year as well with the CARES funding. And then with that, why it lines up a little bit with the past 2 years is we spent money in those past 2 years doing facilities projects. So without that CARES funding, we might have seen a decrease this year, or a lower percentage spent to date, but because the CARES funding is now a little bit replacing those general fund expenses for facilities, it's sort of evening out on a percentage basis. Food service and community end, again, behind as we saw on the revenue side as well. And then our other funds really at this point in the year are mostly wrapped up. So that's what we have for the finance presentation, if there are any questions.
Anybody have questions? Thank you for your great job as always. I look at you. Thank you. All right, moving on to superintendent's report.
All right, you're going to move that around. Okay, just a few things to update you on. If you want to go to that next slide from Amy, that'd be great. Is our response to just the latest the state updates. Many of you saw last week that Governor Walz announced plans to lift many COVID restrictions here over the next month, which is great. It's allowing us to revisit some of our remaining spring updates, see if we can make spring events, to see if we can make updates to those, and where we can have things in person, we want to be able to do that. The lead time for some of those events doesn't really allow us to shift gears totally. For example, some of the things, we're going to be able to do some more things with prom, but we can't totally shift gears on that at this point. It's kind of late in the game to do that, but we're going to do everything we can to make it a positive experience. One of the things that you may have noticed is in the announcement is that we need to continue to follow the safe learning plan within our schools through June 11th. So that means the mask requirement and the physical distancing are still in place. And so we'll have all of those mitigation strategies in place through June 11th within our schools that's still the guidelines that we have to follow. Some of the legislative impacts still are not known as far related to the state budget and those kinds of things. Those continue to move through. So we continue to monitor that.
Jeff, that doesn't change graduation.
I'll get to that.
Okay, sorry.
Yep. So looking at fiscal resources to support learning and how we continue to do that, I just think it's important to note this, that we continue to be in a strong fiscal position. Since it seems like it's every other day, whether it's the Pioneer Press or the Star Tribune, where you're reading about school districts making cuts and having to do that, we continue to have a balanced budget into this next year, even through this pandemic. So just as you all know, because we've been talking as a school board, but anybody that may be tuning in this evening, we're not recommending any budget cuts for the 2021-22 school year. We've been in a good position, and don't take it for granted, and something we continue to work hard on as a management and administrative team. So just thought that was important to get out there. There's also some budget considerations that we have and unknowns moving forward. As we talked about the last time we were together as a school board, and people who are watching may have heard about COVID relief funding from the federal government, the acronym ESSER. But this is one-time funding that we can use to fill gaps, to address things such as the acceleration of student learning. The media calls, you'll see learning loss and social emotional needs, but how do we really support student gains that may have suffered during some of this past year plus, where we've been managing the pandemic and how we're schooling. So it's really used to do that, as well as do some of the teacher professional learning necessary for that, to support that. So we talked about that a little bit the last time we were together at our work session later this month when we review the upcoming budget for next year and then approve that in June. We'll have an update of where we're at with those funds. We've been working with each of our schools to work on that. The state budget still is unknown, staffing, but we're well underway with staffing. Underway, and teacher negotiations have already, we've been working on that. We'll be talking more about that moving forward. Some learning from 2021, so just moving this forward, is that, and I think I talked about this the last time we were together too, but our building and district leaders have rounded with more than 100 staff around the district to gather insight on what are some things that have really gone well. And it's been fun to see that. They're proud of their ability to adapt. Our staff throughout the district in the past year really strengthened collaboration and communication despite all of the challenges. As we reviewed those rounding conversations, and that's just what this image shows, is a wall that we were able to fill out. It's right over there behind us with some of the comments and things that they had. And we're using much of those insights from those rounding, as well as different conversations principals have had with parents and others, to inform the next iteration with our district operational plan to make sure that we continue to grow and improve. With that, I want to move into spring events, give you a few updates here. So these have been, as I mentioned earlier, starting to reimagine these or move them. Music and theater continues to be accomplished in creative ways. Just the past couple of weeks, we've been able to have theater performance and being able to do that despite some of the restrictions in place. We're going to be moving our award and recognition events, happening as much as possible in person over the next few weeks. Kindergarten in Action has become Kinder Camp to take place in August, so that we can really get students and families in place to connect with them and get them in the schools. Also, the tours that we normally do for 8th graders to the high school and 5th graders to the middle school side of Westwood that usually take place in May, we'll be moving those to August, so that for both family members and students can do that in person. And then high school prom and graduation will be in-person events. Which brings me to graduation. The next slide will be Friday, June 11th, 7 p.m. at Mariucci Arena. And since this slide was put together, today Matthew Boucher and some other high school staff were down at Mariucci. And the good news is they've lifted the capacity restrictions that we had in place. So we won't have to be ticketing. We're going to be able to have many more staff, parents and family members in attendance, which is great to be able to do that. So we'll have those formal invitations for you as a board to graduation that evening, as well as I think it's later this week, if I remember right, that we'll have more updates going out to senior families about graduation. So, but excited about that, being able to get, not have to limit the number of family members that can attend. So we'll be moving forward with that. Positive news, our retirees, oh, that's, must be, nope, back. There we go. Honoring our retirees. So we're going to honor our retirees. Normally in May, we have our retirement reception that takes place that we always do. And last year, we weren't able to do that because of COVID restrictions. This year, this is an example of what I mentioned earlier. Sometimes some of the announcement from Governor Walz just came too late to shift those gears to be able to make that happen. So we'd already rescheduled that to Tuesday, September 21st, and we'll be celebrating both the 2020 and the 2021 retirees on that date. So you can see the names up there. Those are the retirees we're aware of at this point for 2021. So this is a cool news that just came out in the past week here is Lori Henry. We've often had a chance to hear from Lori Henry and her students involved with FCCLA. And she was awarded the Family and Consumer Sciences 2021 Teacher of the Year. So a national award, which is pretty cool. And there's a picture there you can see with her hands on her forehead. Matthew totally surprised her when let her know that she'd won that award. She's really passionate about that. The kids have amazing, not just amazing experiences at the school, but amazing success representing Spring Lake Park in state and national competitions. So that's pretty cool to see her get that recognition. We had National Signing Day just last week. 11 of our Panther student athletes participated in this, committing to various schools at the college level. So it's exciting to see. And then we just continue to do our best to design engaging learning experiences. And it's a little bit smaller than if it was the whole screen, but you can see some of the things that we have taking place for kids that were, it's just been nice in the last couple of months to have the kids back in schools, and it brings a new excitement to have them back in school and be able to make that happen. So it's a lot of fun to see that happen. So that is it in a nutshell. All right.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Jeff on any of that? No? Okay. All right. Moving on to action items. We're going to start the resolution related to termination of non-renewal of probationary teaching contracts. Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Forsberg,
Second.
second by Ms. Bo. To approve the following resolution, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 16 that pursuant to Minnesota Statute 122A40, the teaching contracts of the following probationary teachers in Independent School District 16 are hereby terminated at the close of the 2020-2021 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice shall be sent to the following teachers regarding termination of pay and fringe benefits as provided by law. There's a list. We want a few comments on this, the discussion. Ryan, want to chat?
I don't know if you'll need this or not, but, so, what was just read is really a standard practice for us at this time of the year, which is not always a fun thing, but what you're about to take action on, just so you know, a majority of those individuals will all be hired back into our district. So to step back, right, in the state of Minnesota, to hold a Minnesota teaching license, there's 4 tiers, there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. Tier 3 and tier 4 teachers are the only teachers that do not get released in the state of Minnesota based on their license, right, unless they don't renew it. Tier 1 and tier 2, which is, again, this tiered system is about 3 years old. A tier 1 and tier 2 teacher have to meet some requirements so they can move through the system to become a tier 3 or tier 4 teacher. The majority of those teachers right now that you're seeing on that list are tier 1 and or tier teachers. There's different qualifications for each individual for the different reasons why they're tier 1 or tier 2. For example, they could originally receive their teaching license in another country or another state, and our qualifications are different. The other reason why, of course, there's other reasons why we release teachers. I won't get into specifics for data privacy reasons, but we also release teachers for performance and or budgetary reasons. And so, again, you guys know our budget, and of course, Dr. Umberg has given you some ideas of who might be released for performance. So those are the 3 main reasons we release probationary teachers: licensure, performance, and or budget. The licensure one, which I just highlighted, hopefully all those teachers will be coming back to us as soon as we can have them come back to us. So, any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you. It occurs to me our clerk is missing tonight. John, are you stepping in? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bo.
Yes.
Kroon. Yes. Forsberg.
Yes.
Mr. Stroll. Yes. Mr. Easter. Yes. Ms. Finn.
Yes.
Resolution is to read on.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the first reading to initiate review of policy. We'll start with the motion. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Easter,
Second.
second by Strobel. To initiate the first reading of policies for review, Policy 101, legal status of the school district, Policy 603, curriculum development, and Policy 606, textbooks and instructional resources. And we looked at 101 previously, and then we kind of tabled it to put it with these because they go together. And if that doesn't sound familiar when you look at them, it'll all make sense to you. I was just going to let you know at our May work session, we will walk through the timeline on the rest of our policy reviews and ongoing annual review plans. So we'll walk through all that. If you have questions on the proposed changes in the meantime, Jeff and myself and Tony and Karen have spent quite a bit of time on them. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let us know. Happy to answer them. We did take some of our previous discussions into account when we were working on these changes as well. And then if you want to discuss any of these as a group, completely fine. Maybe just give us a heads up so we can get it on the agenda and plan accordingly. Allow some time for that. Okay, any?
I do have one really funny comment.
Yeah.
On 603, articulation courses are studied from kindergarten through grade 12. Should that be pre-kindergarten? Early ed is so much part of our school district these days.
That's something that, yeah, that's a revision that we can look at for that.
Yeah.
Kind of idea to throw at us for the second read.
Good thought. Thanks, Marilyn. Okay, any other discussion on that one to just initiate the first reading on that? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes, thank you. Moving on to second reading to adopt proposed policy changes, is there a motion? Motion by Forsberg,
Second?
second by Bo. To approve the adoption of the following policies with proposed changes: 202, school board officers; 516, student medication; and 522, Title IX, sex non-discrimination policy, grievance procedure and process. And these had our first reading in May, so we've talked about them a little bit, so we're doing the second reading tonight. Any other discussion on that?
Just have a comment, I mean, obviously, five twenty-two, you know, I think it's unfortunate that our policy has to be this long and convoluted, and complex, but I understand we don't have a choice given federal law, so I'll be in favor of it.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes, thank you. Moving on to acknowledgement of gifts. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Easter, second by Forsberg, to adopt the following resolution. Whereas the School Board Policy 706 establishes guidelines for the acceptance of gifts to the district, and whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 states that a school board may accept a gift of real or personal property by the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of its members, therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Spring Lake Park Schools acknowledges and accepts with appreciation the gifts as shown on the screen. Is there any discussion? Yeah, there's one more page too. With the scholarships, yeah, a lot of, as always, we are incredibly grateful as a board to our community for their support, and in particular with these scholarships that are given out every year. It's really, it's truly amazing how much support we get from the community, so very, very grateful.
I have a comment on the Spring Lake Park Alliance one.
Yeah.
It should be the foundation to distinguish it from just the Lions Club.
Oh, good point.
Not that we need to formally change it, but
Yeah,
just as
just-
long as we're all understanding
yeah.
that this is the
Yep,
Spring Lake Park Lions Club Foundation
Right.
that's donating the $25,000.
great. Thank you, good clarification. Any other comments or discussion?
I think I mentioned this before, I just want to thank the community for the continued support of our district, especially during the pandemic, because it's so easy to retract from giving, but it is greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Yeah, so much, on behalf of the students as well, especially for these scholarships. All right, okay. Acting clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Ms. Bo?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe?
Yes.
Ms. Forsberg? Mr. Strobel? Yes. Mr. Easter?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes,
Resolution is adopted.
thank you very much. All right, moving on to board forum and reports. Does anybody have anything to share tonight? Start on this side, anybody over here? I'm thinking John does, if I give him a second here.
Just a quick rundown of the AMSD last Friday
Yeah.
board meeting. And it was a variety of topics. There was a deep, in-depth discussion of all the COVID ones and how they're being dispersed, where they're at and stuff. And again, I think that information's all on the website if you're interested. There was a presentation on school start times, study at the U that was performed, and again, in support of later start times for high school students. Something that we did years ago, or still in place. A lot of discussion about the legislative status, and of course, that's a moving target, so things have even changed probably since then, but that was kind of the focus. Just the
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else over on this side? Anybody over here?
Not much of 916, pretty much same business we are establishing budgets and everything else. We continue to move by Zoom because with 14 members, that creates an issue, and board meetings is rather offset the whole like tax issues, but that, and I'm trying to watch the legislature too, and Congress as far as that goes, but for bodies that were at one time high honor, it seems to be a bit questionable. I'm quite sure they're not going to finish by the designated time of their session.
Right. Thank you. I've attended virtually a Centerview PTO meeting last night. They've met virtually for their last meeting of the year. Lots of comments about how thankful the parents are and the kids are to be back, and how appreciative they are to the district and teachers for kind of getting everybody through that time. So that was great to hear. They did their teacher appreciation, and they had chalk signs and treats that the PTO did. And obviously we are also very appreciative of all of the teachers. So that was, Mr. Callahan was sharing how exciting it was for the teachers just to even see that influence in the school again, the signs and stuff. So that's great. They're doing t-shirts for all students this year, as opposed to the end of the year track and field event just for the oldest kids. They're going to do t-shirts for everybody and have an on-site kind of outdoor Olympics by grade. So that will be really fun. And then they're, like everyone, they're looking for all the PTOs this time of year, looking for new board officers, talking about next year. And then they also talked about the possibility of partnering with the NSC for an event in the Dome at some time, which I thought was kind of fun because when they built Centerview, that was one of the great things about it, is being able to, and Mr. Callahan also talked about how at the Outdoor Olympics, even if it's not great weather, they have that great turf they can work with right there that stands up a little better in the weather. So it's nice to see all those plans coming to fruition. So, yeah. Yeah, I didn't bring it up. But all right, that's all I have. Anybody else? Okay. We are going to move into closed session. Can I get a motion to enter into closed session to discuss employee negotiations?
So moved.
Motion by Forsberg. Oh, that was Sarah, sorry. Sorry, Sarah, let me get that right. I just heard a voice over there. Motion by Vogt. Can I hear a second? Second by Easter. To enter into closed session, I already said that. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?